There we go. Hey, so this is very interesting. I actually picked this up off of the HalTurnerRadioshow.com. But there were other reports that I also heard that actually bring confirmation to it. It's just that they summarize it very well on the HalTurnerRadioshow.com. And this has to do with a situation. Where's my article? There it is. And the article last week is actually dated October 17th. Very much reality right now, and very much in the news, and actually relates to what the Chinese are doing. And in order to foil the elections here in the United States, and actually bring it to a point that our elections can be delayed, that the vote can be delayed, and to bring it about to where they won't be able to have the Electoral College vote in December. And ultimately, it could bring it around to a vote within the House of Representatives in January, maybe February, so before the inauguration. A lot of people are actually concerned that in the voting this year is that it's going to have to do with the voter fraud and the mail-in votes and that type of thing. Here's my concern. It has to do with this article, which is headlined "Urgent Confirmation of Huge Loads of Telecom Gear Leaving Warehouses on Expedited Basis. Comms Outage Coming." So what is the concern, and what's going on is that there is info from a vice president of logistics at a major, and when it says major, massive communications gear company. Hundreds of tractor trailer loads of telephone switching gear are being picked up from warehouses nationwide on an expedited service basis and moved throughout the country. Word of cyber attack coming, which will completely cripple the communications grid. And then it goes on. It says, many of you are aware my family has a long history of working with specialized trucking industry, and he goes in about how and what it takes to move things around. But basically, the bottom line is that they are rolling semi after semi of inventory from telecommunications across the country for exclusive use, expedited delivery early this coming week. Well, that was the 17th, so that would be delivery this week. And it says it's unheard of to increase such inventory shipments like this, but they have increased tenfold. Major corporations have been told by government agencies that some type of incident is going to take place, which may completely destroy the communications grid. It sounds as though there may be some cyber attack of some natural phenomenon which does great damage very soon. And there are also rumors of travel lockdowns coming, which would forbid state-to-state transit. People are using the phrase martial law. And we've talked about this quite a bit on this show and in different shows here on the LAM network. But it says the executives told us he did not know what incident might be coming, which might result in a communications outage. But he said he's never seen entire warehouses of computer switching gear being emptied as he is seeing now. This unexpected and unsolicited information comes just days before this website ran stories where businesses were being told by government to immediately prepare for a grid down situation. So it's just another piece of the puzzle, and we're trying to stay on top of it. Now, there's something else that I learned over the weekend that was taking place, and this is from some insider information that I picked up over at the special app from the Paul Begley show, and it's on the I think it's called the Apocalypse Clock, and he was talking to a person that goes by the name of Agent X or Agent 2020 or something like that. He was talking about information that's coming through about an attack upon the power supply on the West Coast. So this again follows in with why are they planning on doing this? And it's about sabotage, where drones will be flying, pulling copper cable and laying those copper cables across the top of the high power lines, which would completely short out or cause an attempt to short out power supply companies. And then other reports of where domestic groups, sabotage groups, you might say Antifa, you might say Black Lives Matter, you might say some other type of groups like that, Who knows? I'm not saying who, but the concern is, and the intel is that they're going to be using automatic weapons to the tune of 50 calibers that will actually shred power substations. Why? To take out the power this week, or maybe on the day before the day of the election, to destroy the ability of the election process in order to delay elections and cause havoc in our election process here in the United States. These are some more concerns that we're looking at. Other information's come out this week or this past week regarding the Hunter Biden laptops, which also brings out a lot of damaging information against the Democrats and how they've aligned with China, actual collusion, where they were talking about how they aligned with the bioweapon release of the COVID-19, and how they were going to use that in America to lock America down, to destroy or an attempt to destroy the re-election of Donald J. Trump. So these are the things that are in the headlines. These are some things I wanted to bring out in the news, and why it's very important that we are aware of these things, but also very important for us to look at voting and voting early. I'm always one that votes on election day, because that's just what Sandi and I do. On election day, we go down. But for the first time, I think in a long, long time, we're going down today. As soon as the show is over, we're gonna fight the ice and snow on the road, and we're gonna vote early, because we want to make sure that our vote gets in and counts. Even though we're in the most conservative county in the state of Texas, I think we're in the most conservative county in the United States, and that's or at least our district is, and where our vote may not mean as much in a conservative county, but we're going to go down anyway, because we want to make sure that our vote is registered if there's going to be any type of attempt on the power grid, or some type of havoc run on the election system. And I'm recommending that to anybody and everybody that can leave their house. Get it done early, so that your vote can get in. So with that said, I want to bring Eddie and Tammy back on, and Mitt the forward thinker, which I say Mitt the
Froward.
Mitt Romney.
Tammy says it should be froward.
Froward. The froward thinker.
Yeah.
So what do y'all think about that? I'll go with Eddie and Tammy first. What do y'all think about some of these things that are hitting the news?
Well, you've you brought in Hal Turner, and he's got Dave Hodges' expose of the Chinese invasion plans of America, which have been in play for a long, long time. Because it was back in 1995, their number one general put forth the white papers, which I'm sure they were supposedly secret, but they've got since published online, which deals with their long-term plan to take over the United States. And one aspect of that was verified. The invasion force have orders, no prisoners taken. They're going to kill every man, woman, and child, because they want the resources of this land. This is no joke. I wish I was making it up, but it's the most horrific thing. It even exceeds the Pearl Harbor attack, because we didn't have Japanese troops stationed on Canadian soil, but we now have Chinese troops stationed there. We have Chinese stationed in Mexico, and I've heard there's 150,000, probably more than that, troops stationed in Cuba to come up through Florida. And no telling how many. I'd say at least 500,000 coming up through Mexico,
right,
from Nicaragua, and all of those associated things. And it's going to segue beautifully into the Torah portion, because I can do the Torah portion. I'm going to do the Torah portion, Haftorah, and the Brit in 3 verses.
Okay. All right. This is very
directly to this issue, John.
Okay. Excellent.
Invasion.
Excellent. Because this is really very interesting. And some people say, why would Chinese troops be in Mexico or in Canada? And it's based on the agreement between the two countries, where China says, we're going to invest in your infrastructure, we're going to invest in your country, but you must allow us to have our troops on your soil to protect our investment. That's why they're there. That's the alleged reason why they're there. But we know that they're setting up on the northern southern borders, and that is where the big danger is. And a lot of big danger is when you look at the big picture, is a lot of people don't know about the huge buildup of the Navy of China, and where their Navy rivals the United States Navy in terms of the number of ships and the weapons that they have on those ships. So we should not take this very lightly. That is a very, very serious situation.
And it's all predicated on this election, because they have very carefully bought and very expensively bought the Democratic National Committee, the Democratic Party. And their plan was to install Hillary at this last election, but God sovereignly stepped in. I heard Trump say that he won the election. No, he didn't have a thing to do with it. God Almighty, with his angelic force, personally flipped votes that the Democrats were certain were going to go for Hillary and did not. And they were all stunned. That's why we've gone through 4 years of hell of their wrath against Trump, because their person didn't get in there. They own the news media. The Chinese own the news media. They own Google. They own Twitter, Facebook. They own it all. And that's why we've seen such a horrendous attack against Trump. But it was God's great mercy for us that stayed this hand, because we would have already had the Chinese in country if Hillary had won. I want to diverse real quick. The Ruach is reminding me of something. Did you ever hear Henry Gruver's testimony about the collapse of the salt domes because of a hurricane? John, did you hear? Have you heard that?
I don't remember the salt domes. I've heard many of his prophecies, but not the salt domes.
He was instructed by God to fly to Corpus Christi, and that he would meet a person that had a message for him. Unbeknownst to him, the prayer leader of one of his prayer groups in Texas, it was a female, received the same word. I want you to go to Corpus Christi. I want you to, I have someone there that has a message for you. And so miraculously, Henry is walking down the beach there in Corpus Christi and sees this prayer warrior lady. And he comes up to her and says, "Oh, you've got a message for me." And she said, "Oh, no, you've got a message for me." And unbeknownst to both of them, that was the message was not coming for either one of them. A Mexican army officer came by real quick with his head bowed and said, "Meet me at the pier, such and such a pier, at after midnight. There we can talk." And he took off. And that night, they met him down by the pier, and he went to explain how that China and Russia had secreted in an unimaginable amount of armor in the salt domes in the northern part of Mexico that they were going to use to invade the United States of America. But this hurricane came through and dropped so much water, it collapsed the salt on all the vehicles, ruining and setting back their plans for invasion.
Whoa.
How many people know we were that close to invasion back then, but by a sovereign act of God Almighty, he delivered us from our enemies. We didn't even know it.
Wow.
That was the message he had for Henry Gruver and the prayer warrior leader from this Mexican army officer.
Right.
And that was back in early 90s.
No, it was about 98.
Yeah.
It was Hurricane Mitch.
When that hurricane went through. I mean, people don't realize, oh my God, this actually happened. And since, have they given up their plans? Absolutely not. They have just redoubled. And the Chinese plan is to gain control of America through the Democratic Party in both the House of Representatives and the Senate. They're all sold out, taking communist Chinese money, every one of them, and then bring in the invasion. But see, they don't understand. The Democrats don't understand that there is winner take all, no prisoners taken. They will obliterate the Pelosi's. They will obliterate the Schumers. They will obliterate the Clintons and the Obamas. They'll kill them. There will be, and if you're an old Stan Johnson Prophecy Club follower from way back, you'll remember Chuck Youngbrandt described that the Chinese invasion of China of California was brutal, and the general was take no prisoners. And in what he said was one of the most brutalest battles that he saw in his visions, that communist Chinese general was killed. But he back then spoke about no prisoners taken, no quarters given, total obliteration of all Americans so that they could come in and possess this land and transplant the people in their country over here. And we're seeing it come to fruition right now.
Very interesting. It was also said back in the 80s, and I don't remember the gentleman's name. He was a Russian defector, Soviet defector, and he said that prior to the invasion of the communists on the West Coast, they would burn the forests of the West Coast before they came in. And what some of the most horrific forest fires ever have been this year in Washington, Oregon, and California.
Have you noticed, John, that it miraculously stops at the Canadian border?
Isn't that right? That's right. It seems to
go any. Fire is pro-Canadian, anti-U.S. It just stops miraculously at the U.S.-Canadian border.
Well, and that's you know the reason for that, right? It's because global warming is only relates to what the United States does. And so therefore it just happens in our own forests, and it doesn't go to Canada or anywhere else.
Oh man.
I mean, if you listen to the governor of California, that the whole problem with the fires is global warming because of the evils of our carbon emissions in the United States. So, but in Canada, see, they're cool, so there's no fires up there.
Wow,
it's amazing.
It's amazing to see all this come to fruition now.
It is.
I got to say, the communist Chinese plan is brilliant. And if not for the mercies of the God, the only true God, the only living God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, we would be fighting Chinese right now.
Amen. That's right. Exactly. Hey, I want to bring Mark in. Mark, what are your thoughts about these things we've been talking about? Whoops. Sorry about that.
No, I get all my news from you, dude. I don't seriously. I don't study it out nearly enough to be able to give a rational answer to these things, and I do. I literally do listen to what you have to say. Eddie sends me emails, and I hit and miss on some of those, and I try to keep up the best I can, but I really don't have much to add, or I don't have anything to add to any of those. Kind of why I took myself out. I joke around about it, like the joking around of the voting and stuff like that, but only to keep it light. I mean, it is, these are heavy issues, and a lot of people just, I don't have a sense of humor about it. I do. I'm not stupid enough to buy into a lot of the things that are out there, but as you've heard me say before, there are extremely stupid people out there, and most of them I think are right here in the United States, because they just acclimate to the stupidity of people that don't forward think. They don't look for things themselves. They don't think about the things themselves. And it's like the person that wears the mask, the face mask while getting their gas. Well, maybe they're keeping the gas fumes from going inside. I don't know, it's, but it's just they're the ones that are driving by themselves in their truck and wearing a mask. These are people that buy the crap of this government and the things that the news that are being put out there. And most of the time, I just haven't had the history of searching things out well enough to know one thing from another. So once again, I may be slightly joking about the fact that I get my news from you, which is kind of humorous, but it's not. And this is not a shameless plug whatsoever at all, but on the Lamb Network, you can go. We have an entire page of hundreds of news articles, all given right here on the Lamb Network. The different people, there's all kinds of different shows that give out news stories, and I document them. I segment them out of the shows, and I put them right here on the Lamb Network so people can go see real news. They can hear our commentaries on them and hear the real stories of things. So that's the best I have to offer.
Well, Mark, it's when we bring these issues up, and the reason why we wanted to talk about it from so many different angles, and what I loved hearing, all the different parts to this, because there's a history to it, but it's not a single issue of voter suppression or voter corruption or election corruption. It's not a single point saying this is happening, so focus here. The media would want us to say, oh, focus here because that's where the issue is. No, it is so multi-tangented, kind of a web of design meant to actually destroy the constitutional electoral process of the United States, of the people of the United States, and to actually turn this around. The Chinese have invested billions of dollars in order to take over our nation. Yes. And as has come out in the Biden emails, is that they received not only money for it, but I mean, literally a commission in order to make to pave the way for the destruction of our constitutional government. And, that's where we're really at.
Truly.
And
I just wanted to make a quick comment about the voting. I heard on the news the other day that only 22% of the population of South Carolina has even registered to vote.
Only 22%.
Only
Wow.
22%.
There will be enough ballots to cover every filled out ballots to cover every single person that lives in South Carolina. Where did they come from?
Well, and so again, that's the other side of it is that when the votes come in, so many of the different counties, they have over 100% of the eligible registered voters that are getting ballots. Over 100% of the eligible legal voters. So, what's that going to tell us if this isn't stopped in its tracks? But okay, well, there you go. That's it for what I wanted to talk about the news, just to bring awareness of what's happening and realize this is quite a time that we're living in. And if Yeshua tarries, we all have a responsibility to expose it. That's why we're talking about it, but also to be able to act and to influence within our own personal communities and within our own families to recognize, get the vote out, get our families out to vote, get our neighbors and our co-workers and that, get out to vote, get out there and do it early.
We are richly blessed to bring you what we believe is the fullest, most diverse, yet up-to-date progressive teachings, discussion, and prayer programming you can find anywhere on this planet. Be sure to take the tour of the MessianicLambRadio.com website. I'm Susan Hoogie, thanking you for joining us on the Messianic Lamb Video Network.